We'll get it started. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Shri Shailabhijanambura Shashinam Sri Krishna Tatatmajam Sri Shailanve Devanatha Sudhiya Prapta Gamantadvayam Padabche Narsimha Tataya Guroho Nyastatma Rakshabharam Vidvadvrinda Chakora Chandiramaham Sri Ramanujaryam Shraye Shriranga Sudha Madhu Samaswadayantam Shriranga Mahishi Padapankajatmajam Sulabhashrayam Sada Moda Siddhamadbhutam Bhajeham Gurum Tam Ranganatha Priyam Sukhasanastham Hridayabjapite Chinmudraya Lankrita Pani Padmam Shubho Pavitam Vimalordhvapundram Namami Rangam Gurum Antarange Namami Yoga Samraknyem Vijayam Vijayapradam Srirangardha Sanasinam Karunam Mataram Guru Rupa Paranjyoti Jyoti Rupa Guru Paraha Ajnana Mandiram Yetate Guru Vijnana Mandiram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkrupa Tamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Yo antah pravishya mama vachamimam prasuptam sanjeevayatyakila shaktidhara swadhamna anyanscha hastacharana shravanatvagadine pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam jnananandamayan devam nirmalaspatika kritim adharam sarvavidhyanam hayagrivam upasmahe jnananandamayin devim Nirmalaspatika Kritim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Param Vachamupasmahe Jayatya Santrasa Dhvanta Vidvam Sanodayaha Prabhavan Sitaya Devya Paramavyoma Bhaskaraha Sakradeva Prapannaya Tavasmiti Chayachate Abhayam Sarva Bhutebhyaha Dadamye Tatvratam Mama Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayutha Mukyam Shri Ramadutam Shirasa Namami. Narayana. With salutations to our Guru and the Guru of all Gurus, will commence our session today. As usual, a gentle request for those of you who can turn on your videos, kindly do so. For others, please at least write your names below your videos so that I will not be recorded for any hate speech, just in case. So we were looking at the glory of Lord Hanuman, and in the sequence so far we are in the foundational part of why we should go through Srimad Sundara Kandam. And as part of that, we have looked at the greatness of Sri Ramachandra, then Sita Mata, and we are now looking at Lord Hanuman's Prabhavam in the last few sessions. In that sequence, the first thing we noticed is how Sri Narada Maharshi himself glorifies Hanuman. Then we saw how Valmiki talks about Hanuman. And we are in the middle of the journey, the beautiful phase of Srimad Ramayanam, where Hanuman first meets Lord Rama and Lord Lakshmana in the Kishkinda Kandam. The reason we took that sargam is the fact that the Lord Ramachandra himself is going to talk about Hanuman, who Hanuman is. And that's the reason why we touched upon this particular chapter. And, we cannot just directly jump into that conversation. Therefore, we started with the third sarga of Kishkinda Kandam. We have seen how Lord Hanuman takes the form of a bhikshu or a mendicant And then he approaches Rama and Lakshmana, and then he does proper namaskaram to them. He does a propitiation or puja. And we have seen why he did that, isn't it? The two main reasons are Lord Hanuman is Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam, and he is a Jnani himself. Therefore, he doesn't look at others the way we see others with our naked eyes. He would have seen the true form of Lord Rama and Lord Lakshmana, and therefore he does a Vidhivat puja for both of them, and then goes on to glorify Rama and Lakshmana as to how handsome they are, how good looking they are, how broad-shouldered they are, how strong they are. And he questions them as to why are you currently wandering about here like mendicants, just like I am myself masquerading, taking the form of a mendicant, bhikshu. You both seem to also be masquerading like a sadhujana. You are not belonging to that clan. You seem to be the protectors of Mother Earth. You seem to be great Kshatriya warriors. And you can verily protect this whole beautiful land of Rishamukha Parvata and associated Bhumata. Therefore, pray, let me know why you are here. And then he goes on to say that, your bow and arrows are so powerful. And finally, he says, Evam mam paribhashantam kasmadvai nabhibhashatah sugrivo nama dharmatma kaschid vanara yuthapaha viro vinikrito bhratra jagad bhramati dukkhitah. He discloses who he is, that is who Hanuman himself is, and what is the purpose of him being there, and the fact that Sugriva is indeed looking forward to making friendship and so on. This is something we saw in the last two sessions. And then he goes quiet. Hanuman goes quiet. So far I have spoken a lot, so I will mute myself, just like in various online meetings today. One person cannot keep rambling, After a point, you have to mute and listen to what others talk about. Evam uktva tu Hanuman stau virau Rama Lakshmanau vakyajnau vakyakushalaha punarno vacha kinchana. He didn't speak any word beyond that. Okay, he would have gone into a state of silence, perhaps awaiting eagerly what my Lord is going to talk now, isn't it? There will be an expectation. Etachutva vachantasya Ramo Lakshmanamapravite Prahishtvadana Sriman Bhrataram Pashvatastitam. Then we saw how Lord Rama, in a matter of kind of testing Lakshmana, he says that there is a person here who has spoken in the best possible manner. He perhaps needs a written reply from our end. Why don't you talk to him? But Lord Rama doesn't stop there. He goes on to now glorify Hanuman, who Hanuman is, right? And as part of that, we were in sloka number 28, third sargam of Kishkinda Kandam. Na Nrigveda Vinitasya, na Yajurveda Dharinaha, na Asama Veda Vidushaha, Shakyamevam Vibhashitum. This is where we ended in the last class. And the fact that Lord Ramachandra identified this aspect, that one who is not well versed in Rigveda, Yajurveda, and Samaveda cannot speak like this. So therefore, one thing is very clear here. Lord Rama, see, you cannot talk about, let's say, biology unless you yourself know biology. right? So we all can go through the text in biology and talk about biology. But to be able to speak that, oh, this new thing called COVID virus actually has certain aspects of a protein that gets bound to certain molecules, and the vaccine has to attack in a particular manner. To be able to make this sort of a statement in biology is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Only scientists can do. Likewise, Sri Ramachandra is himself the true scientist. He knows that speech is not just a set of words coming from our mouth. It needs a particular samskaram. Whatever we speak has to go along with it is a thing called samskaram. Samskaram is nothing but the proper way of speaking. How do you bring the intonation? How do you bring the relation between what we speak and what is the meaning of what we speak? Shabdam emiti, dani artham emiti. ఈ శబ్దార్థం రెండును ఒకే విధంగా చూసి మనం ఎలా మాట్లాడచ్చు. நம்ம ரெண்டுத்தையும் எப்படி சேர்த்து பேச முடியும்? ஒரு வார்த்தை சொன்னோம்னாக்கா அந்த வார்த்தையினுடைய அர்த்தம்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும். அந்த அர்த்தத்தை சேர்த்து தான் நம்ம சொல்லணும். ஸோ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இதை பாரு, இங்கே வா, இங்கே வா, வேகமாக ஓடிவா, வேகமாக ஓடிவா அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா? வேகமாக ஓடிவா, வேகமாக ஓடிவா அப்படின்னா என்ன ஆகும்? The words are the same, but we are not linking the meaning with the words. Therefore, the effect that it will have on you will be very different, isn't it? And the beauty of language is that if somebody attaches shabdam and artham and then speaks, then you really need not know the language itself. What I spoke just a little while ago, anybody who doesn't know Tamil would have realized something is happening, I have to go quickly, isn't it? I don't need to know Tamil to understand that. So the beauty of the science of language is a great study of its own. It comes under the so-called Vyakarana Shastram. But apart from Vyakaranam, how do you interpret the meaning of words and then bring it to life? It can go into as deep as all the Darshana Shastras, which includes Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta, everything put together. You will not be able to understand the meaning unless you know all these other means of acquiring knowledge. And when we talk of the means of acquiring vidya or knowledge, the root of all of that is the Vedas. That's the reason why the science of speaking has its roots in the Vedas themselves. Vedamu, Vedangamu అని చెప్తాం. సో వేదములు తెలియలేదంటే వేదాంగములు మనకి సరిగ్గా రావు. வேதம் சரியா தெரியலன்னா வேதாங்கம் நம்மளால புரிஞ்சிக்க முடியாது. So today, if you can actually be an MA in Vyakarana without knowing Vedas, but that's the unfortunate fallout. In the traditional system, unless you study Vedas, you will not be able to be a proper Vyakarana. So in this shloka, the Lord himself says, Na anrigveda vinitasya. So Rigveda vinitaha is the word he uses. So one who has expertise, in English, he doesn't use the word expertise. He uses 3 different words for the 3 Vedas. For Rigveda, he uses the word vinitaha. For Yajurveda, he says dharinaha. Na ayajurveda dharinaha. Na asamaveda vidusham. For Samaveda, he says vidwan, vidushaha, one who is a vidwan in it, proficient in it. So these 3 words, there is a reason why he uses these 3 different forms along with the 3 Vedas. As we have seen in the last class very briefly, Rigvedas talk about Rik or different hymns. There are 1028 suktas, and primarily they talk about the various deities. And I am not going into the modern day historians or so-called rational people who talk about the aging of the Vedas. First came the Rig Vedas, then Yajurveda, then Samaveda. If one were to really analyze the Vedas in the truest sense, we will know that they all emerged at the same time. That is the belief of, why should I say belief? That is a conviction of Sanatana Dharma. So Rigveda Vinitaha. Vinitaha means one who is a Vinayam, abdina humble nartham. Illaya? Rigvedathukum humble ko enna purinjirthu Rigvedam purinjirthu I am humble kadayadhu. Vinitahana nayanam irukanga. Nayanam is margam. So one who is able to understand the margam of Rigvedam, which is basically understand the various deities that you talk about in the Rigvedas. And the deities are Agni, Mitra, Varuna, Vayu, Surya, and then all the other gods and goddesses. So the primary source of reference is in Rigvedas. Who that Lord is, you will get reference to how do you do puja for that Lord, how do you meditate on that Lord, what does that Lord confer on you if you were to meditate or do puja on him. All of the aspects of knowledge pertaining to the Devatas are there in the Rigvedam. Yajurveda Dharinaha. Yajurveda, of course, Rigvedam, the other thing normally associated with Rigvedam is it is very poetic in nature. Okay. So, if somebody is a great Kavi, then perhaps he would have done a proper study of Rigvedas. It has a lot of signs of poetry embedded with it. Yajurveda, on the other hand, is about elaboration of Rigveda in the form of yagas. Yaj, as the root indicates, is yagam or sacrifices is I wouldn't call it a direct translation at all, right? If you were to talk of yagam, what it is, in the Vedas themselves, for example, Yajurveda, Om Tasyaivam Vidusho Yajnasyatma Yajamana Shraddha Patni Sharira Midhamuro Vedillomani Barhir Vedashika Hridayanyopa Kama Ajyam Manyu Pashustapo Nishamaita Dakshina Vaghota Pranavudghata Chakshuradharyur Mano Brahma Shrotramaknir Yavatriyate Sadiksha. It talks about what actually is yaga. We can talk about this in great detail at some point in a different context. But yagas essentially are meant to propitiate or perform a form of puja, which is not only external, but also helps us to go internal. And this particular Suktam I just chanted talks about what a yaga is, who is a yajamana, what are the various things that are required in a Vedikai. So this is a very profound kind of Suktam where it talks about the fact that the various ingredients that you see in a yagam, while there are external things, they all have a reference to something internal. So Yajurvedam talks about how do you perform yagas. And in the external setting, it talks about the Vedikai. What is the Vedikai that you need to adopt for every yagam, right? And what are the samagris that are required? And very interestingly, every yaga ideally requires 4 people. Who are they? One is a hota, H-O-T-A, okay? The other person is an adhvaryu. The third person is udghata. And the last person is a brahma. In the 4 பேர் இல்லைன்னா யாகம் பூர்த்தி ஆகாது. Who are these 4 people? அப்படின்னா hota is the person who recites the hymns, the various hymns. And where do you find the source hymns? They are all in Rigveda. So therefore, by definition, you can't be a hota unless you are a Rigvedi. Then comes adhvaryu. Adhvaryu is somebody who actually knows how to set up the Vedikai for a yagam. And he knows the complete science. There are lots of geometrical things associated with our yagashalais, and they all have a proper connection with internal yogic science. We may have lost them all in transit, but there is a high degree of relation between external and internal. So the Yajurvedi alone can be an Adhvaryu. He knows how to set up the Vedikai and all the Alankaram, associated Alankaram with it, Agama Shastram, everything. And therefore, without knowing Yajurveda, you can't be an Adhvaryu. The third person is an Udghata. Udghata is somebody who recites the same hymns in the Rigveda, but he adds a kind of music to it, the dimension of Sangeetam to it. And that naturally comes in Samaveda. அதுதான் சங்கீத சாஸ்திரத்துல சங்கீத வித்வான் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா? The reference here, அசாமவேத விதுஷாம். ஸோ சாமவேதத்துல வித்வானா இருக்கான் அப்படின்னாக்கா, ஓம் உன்னயாமி ஓய். It's a particular rik which actually says, I lift you upwards. Therefore, when we chant it, do we not need to merit an attention to what it means? Today we chant it just like that. And this particular hymn, if you were to go to traditional temples and where they recite with Shraddhai, you spend 2 minutes there, you will find that you will go internal. That's the power of the Vedas. So therefore, the third person is an Udghata, and he ends up blessing the Yajamana. The yaga has the so-called Yajamana. One who performs the yaga is the Yajamana. Yeah, it's not the Rajinikanth's movie here. Yajamana means one who actually performs the yaga, meaning he arranges everything, all the samagri that is required for the yagam. And he is also supposed to provide proper dakshina to who come for the yagam. Yeah. அது இல்லைன்னா யாகமே பலிக்காதுன்னு சொல்லுவா. So the fourth person is a Brahma. So if any of you have observed today, even when we do any homam in our home, Ganapati Hom, Navagraha Homam, it can even be Pitru Homam. We invoke Brahma and then ஒரு கூர்ச்சத்தில் வச்சுட்டு அவர் உட்கார வச்சுட்டு இதமாசனம் சமர்ப்பியாமி இதமச்சனம் சமர்ப்பியாமி சகலாராதனை ஸ்வர்ச்சிதம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி பிரம்மாவை மறந்துடுவோம் நம்ம. But Brahma is also a proper role. And what is his role? He is the supervisor. He is the organizer, manager, director for this entire yagam. So his role is to see whether Hota is chanting it correctly, the rik pertaining to the homam. Agnik homam பண்ணோன்னா ஓம் அக்னயே ஸ்வாஹா அப்படின்னு சொல்லணும். இல்ல சூர்யாய ஸ்வாஹான்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது. So the Brahma will say, ஏய் தப்பா சொல்ற, கரெக்ட் பண்ணிக்கோ. So the job of Brahma is to oversee the Hota. He will also oversee the Adhvaryu. Where darbata tappa potteni. You put the darbham. Normally if you see the darbha grass, it has a pointed edge and a flat root, isn't it? Tikshama irukum. So purva greshu darbheshu abdin solluvom. So in some context we keep the darbham in the facing the east, meaning the pointed end should be facing the east. But இப்பெல்லாம் எல்லாம் பார்க்கறதுல வாத்தியாரே வேற மாதிரி பண்ணுவார். So the Brahma has to see, adada தப்பு பண்ணிட்டீங்களே, this should point eastward, this should point southwards, this should point northwards. Or he will see the uttanani patrani tipparya krikritva. You have to lift the patrams and keep them upwards. There is a particular act that we do. So அது பண்ணானா இல்லையான்னு பார்க்கணும். You have to do it in the right manner at the right time, isn't it? And then perform the yagam. So that's the job of the Adhvaryu. Likewise, the Udghata, he will see the Udghata is chanting it properly in the Samavedam, and he is actually blessing the people. Om Agnirayushman samanaspati virayushman tenatva ishayushmantang karomi அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டே போனோம். அதுல சுப கர்மாக்கு ஒரு விதமா, பித்ரு கர்மாக்கு வேற விதமா இல்லையா? பிதர ஆயுஷ்மந்தஹா அப்படின்னு வரும் ஒரு இடத்துல. That should not be chanted during Shubha Karmas. So the Brahma is supposed to point him, boss, this is the wrong occasion, that's reserved for some other occasion. So the Brahma is somebody who knows everything and he is well versed in Atharvana Vedam. இன்னைக்கு Atharvana Vedam அப்படின்னாலே ஐயோ பேசாத, it is voodoo, black magic, only people in Kerala practice. No. Atharvana Vedam has a lot of significance where the person has to know all the three other Vedas. And he is well versed in the meaning and experience that each of the riks will communicate to us. So given this deep significance of what is a yagam, right? There was one point of time where everybody used to know all the Vedas. Veda Vyasar நம்மளுக்காக ஈஸியா பண்ணிட்டு போயிட்டார். கோர்ஸ் 101 ரிக்வேதா, 201 யஜுர்வேதா அப்படின்ட்டு. So you can get a degree in each of these separately. Unfortunately, that was meant to simplify things for us in the Kali Yugam. But there was one point of time where everybody knew all the four Vedas. And Lord Ramachandra, you can see here, Hanuman is one such person. He knows all the three Vedas. Na Rigveda Vinitasya, na Yajurveda Dharinaha, na Asama Veda Vidushaha, Shakyamevam Vibhashitum. Vibhashitumnu சொல்றார், பாஷித்தும்னு சொல்ல. அந்த பாஷையிலேயே ஒரு விதமான அலங்காரமும் ஸ்வீட்னஸும் மதுரமும் எல்லாம் கலந்திருக்கு இல்லையா? சுந்தர தெலுங்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். So he has spoken a bhasha which actually is pleasing to the ears, the mind, and also the heart, the soul. So that's the significance of Lord Hanuman. He is actually somebody who is well versed in all the three Vedas. And this is a title given by Lord Rama himself. So we don't need to worry about it. Okay, we can boldly declare Lord Hanuman is a PhD in all the three Vedas. Nunam vyakaranam kritsnam anena bahudha shrutam bahu vyaharatanena na kinchidapashabditam. So he spoke about the fact that Hanuman knew all the three Vedas. Associated with Vedas are the Vedangas and all the offshoots of the Shastras that emanated from Vedas. And the primary Angam related to Bhashanai is Vyakaranam. See the sequence. The Lord talks about Vedas first. அதுக்கப்புறம் வியாக்கரணம். எல்லாத்துலேயும் சயின்ஸ் இருக்கு. இது வால்மீகி சொன்னார் அப்படின்னு ஒரு வார்த்தை இருந்தாலும் the Lord himself has adopted his own natural way of evolution. So he's saying, Noonam Vyakaranam Krishnam. Certainly I know that this guy has got a PhD in Vyakarana. It's not just the Vedas. Today, if you see, there are people who are very well versed in Vedas. If you ask them, can you tell me what is the Vibhakti, what is the Samasam here? என்ன சார் பேசுறீங்க? நாளைக்கு வரங்களா, நான் பார்த்து சொல்றேன் அப்படின்றா. So today, those who know Vedas, they are specializing in understanding and chanting the Vedas. So be it. And there are people who know Vyakaranam, who can take all the Panini's sutras and undile naakku viduvaa. Nammalaal onnume puriya dagadagadagan solli poiduva. But you ask them to chant Vedas, they will not be able to chant. So the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is that everything is connected and needs to be connected. You cannot isolate one branch of knowledge from another. That is the beautiful lesson we learned from Srimad Ramayanam. And what is it here? Vyakaranam. Om Ayivune Rilike Evong Ayauch Hayavarat Lane Namagananam Jabhai Gadadashe Jabagadadashe Kha Pha Chata Ta Chatatau Kapai Sashashar Hal iti Maheshwarani Sutrani. Who is the owner of Vyakaranam? It is Bhagavan Shankara himself. Maheshwarani Sutrani. So therefore, the origin of the Vyakaranam is Maheshwara himself. And verily he is not Lord Hanuman, an Amsha of Lord Rudra himself. We will see more reflections on this in all these shlokas. Nunam Vyakaranam Kritsnam. Kritsnam means he is not somebody who has just flipped through the first 2 pages, got an A grade and then stepped over. No. Kritsnam means wholesome. He has completed the degree wholeheartedly. He knows everything about Vyakaranam. Anena Bahuda Shrutam. Meaning he has not just read once, but several times over. இல்லையா? சந்தை சொல்றது அப்படின்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும். இந்த కాలంలో వాద్యాలు சொல்లితరానాలే நம்மளுக்கு భయం இல்லையா? ఒకసారి చెప్పిస్తారు, వాళ్ళు చెప్పిస్తే అయ్యో వెళ్ళాలి కదా, వాళ్ళు 3 సార్లు చెప్తారు, అది మనం వినుకొని 3 సార్లు మనము చెప్పాలి, తర్వాత వాళ్ళు మీరు ఇంట్లో వెళ్ళి 10 సార్లు చెప్పండి అంటారు. సో the teacher says you learn it not once but you have to repeat it 10 times. So that is where we all get into an act of boredom. No, the knowledge gets refined the more we spend time on it, try to reflect on it, regurgitate it, and so on. Yeah, Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. Hanuman belongs to that ultimate category. Bahuda Shrutam. Bahuvyaharathanena na kinchidapashabditam. He has spoken a lot அப்படின்ட்டார். நல்ல வளவளன்னு பேசிட்டார். ஆனா அந்த வளவளன்னு பேசுறதுலயும் ஒரு சின்ன தப்பு நாங்க பார்க்கல அப்படிங்கிறார். ந கிஞ்சித் அபசப்திதம். He has never spoken even a syllable which is wrong, which basically means he not only knows Vedas, but he also knows Vyakarana. So he has actually, whatever he is speaking, he is mindfully speaking. Not only that, the next sloka is going to even talk about the deeper science of speech itself. Okay, na kinchid apashabditam. So we all, are used to apashabdam only. If you don't know certain syllables in Sanskrit, the whole meaning may change. Yeah, vijitatma vidheyatma satkirtihi chinna samshayaha. Chinna samshayam. No, chinna samshayaha. You should pronounce it with a cha there. Yeah, chinna samshayana or samshayam irundhe irukonu artham. There will be a doubt always. We should get away from all the doubts. Na kinchit apashabditam. Namukhe netrayorvapi lalate cha bhruvos tatha anyeshvapi cha gatreshu doshas samviditah kvachit. Lord Rama is talking about the beauty of Hanuman here. Okay, what is he saying? Mukhe netrayor vapi lalate tatha bhruvo. So he is observing Hanuman's face. Okay, then netram, then lalatam is the forehead, and then bhru, that is the என்ன சொல்லுவோம் இதுக்கு, eyelashes இல்ல, bhruvam, eyebrows. Thank you. So anyeshvapicha gatreshu, all other parts of his body, kvachit doshaha na samviditaha. I do not see any dosham in this person's physique. Imagine Lord Hanuman is standing in front of us. Okay, so look at the way the Lord is describing. He is looking at Hanuman's face, his forehead, his eyebrows, eyes. That is what he describes first. And then he says the rest of the body, right? So it may appear the Lord is describing how handsome Lord Hanuman is. Samavibhakta Sundaranga. His body is again proportionate. However long the arms are, so long are his teeth. No, they are proportionate. Okay, so he is quite strong. and all that is there. But if you were to look at the next slokam, avistaram asandigdham avilambitam adrutam urastam kantagam vakyam vartate madhyame sware. The Lord is continuing with respect to how he has spoken. So what is the connection between a person being good looking and handsome and the speech? So that's actually a fascinating subject. I believe there is a connection between the first slokam and the third slokam through the second slokam here. Okay. The fact that he knows Vedas, he knows Vyakaranam, and the next slokam he's talking about how he is speaking. In the middle, he's saying how beautiful Hanuman, how handsome he is. Adilayam, he stresses or emphasizes on the face. He's not talking about all other aspects of the body. Okay. That means there is a connection between the face and the way we speak. Obviously, our mouth, so mouth is there in the face, so you can't ignore it. However, what other things are there here? All the important jnanendriyas are there. What are the jnanendriyas? They allow us to sense from the external world, acquire that knowledge. What are they? The eyes, right? They see objects and they convey certain information about those objects. Likewise, the ears. We have the nostrils through which we breathe, isn't it? That also actually helps us acquire knowledge about the external world. And the tongue, which helps us to taste things. So all the jnanendriyas, important jnanendriyas are there in our face. So that is the reason why the Lord perhaps is talking about how beautiful is Namukhe, Netrayor Vapi, Lalate cha Bhruvos Tatha, Anyeshu Picha Gatreshu Doshas Sammi. There is no dosham in the face, which means somebody who is a real master of Vedas, who knows Vyakaranas, and therefore he knows how to pronounce. Over a period of time, that person's tejas will be reflected in the face. And the Lord is seeing that tejas in Lord Hanuman. And therefore, he is acknowledging it. Okay. Doshaha samviditaha na kochit. There is no room for any dosham there. Abdina enna artham? Nambo pesarche correcta pesano. Idu purinjikonga. మాట్లాడేటప్పుడు చక్కగా మాట్లాడాలి. ఎందుకంటే దాంట్లో ఉండే శక్తి మనలో ప్రవహిస్తుంది. Whatever we speak energizes us. So if we speak positive things, it energizes us positively. Negative naka, it will definitely have an impact on our entire body. So that's the connection between what we speak and how we look. Yeah. So there is no need to go to a beautician. If you are to practice the art and science of speaking and add a lot of true sattvic flavor to it, then you will automatically become beautiful. There is no doubt about it. And that is what the Lord has recognized in Hanuman here. Avistaram asandigdham avilambitam adrutam. Now he is talking about how the words are emanating from Lord Hanuman. So the sentences that he is speaking are avistaram. They are not too elaborate, like what our politicians speak. Yeah. So can you talk about inflation? Avdinaka, they will start about the war in Ukraine, then they will go to COVID, then they will go somewhere else, and finally they will forget. There will be only 2 minutes for the journalist. The time is gone. Avistaram. The sentences are quite neat and short. If you are to see how he spoke about Ayatascha Surtascha Bahavaha Parigopamaha Sarvabhushana Bhusharhaha Kimartam na Vibhushitaha. In one sentence, he's talking about the fact that your shoulders, they all seem to be, Bhusharaha, Sarvabhushana Bhusharaha. They seem to be ready to be decorated by all kinds of jewels. Imagine in that short sentence, he has packed so many things about Bhushana Shastra, Alankara Shastra, isn't it? So, avistaram, asandigdham, there is no room for any ambiguity at all. Okay, நம்மலாம் பேசணும்னா ambiguity is the mother of our sentences. When we speak about something, we are very, very clear. The other person should not be clear. There should be no clarity. ஏன்னா அப்பதான் இவர் இப்படி சொல்லியிருப்பாரோ, அப்படி சொன்னாரோ, இப்படி சொல்லியிருக்க கூடும், இப்படியும் சொல்லியிருந்திருக்கலாம். So you will get into all kinds of interpretations. All the Gurujis we know, isn't it? அவர் என்ன சொன்னார், அரை மணி தட்டி கை தட்டிடுவோம். என்னப்பா பேசினார் அப்படின்னு ஆத்துக்கு போய் உட்காண்டாட்டு, ஆஹா 1000 rupees போயிடுத்து அப்படின்னு தோணுச்சு. போட்டோம், ஐ ஹேட் மை காலக்ஷேபம், isn't I have spent my time அப்படின்னு ஆயிடும். Asandigdham, there is no room for any ambiguity. When does ambiguity come? If you were to really look at it, ambiguity comes when you are really not aware of things, right? You don't know the connection between padam and padartham. You don't have the basic jnanam. When that happens, that's the root of ambiguity. So therefore, the only way to get rid of ambiguity is to acquire knowledge pertaining to what we are going to speak. அது இல்லைன்னாக்கா கட்டாயம் ambiguity இருக்கும். அது இரண்டு இருக்குமா? வேதத்தெல்லாம் படிச்சவர், வியாக்கரணத்துல PhD, அசந்திக்தம். Then avilambitam. Again, the words that he speaks are not, with a dragging nature. He doesn't drag the words or speeches. ரொம்ப drag பண்ணாலும் என்ன ஆயிடும்? தூக்கம் வந்துடும். So therefore, the way that Hanuman has spoken is avistaram, asandigdham, avilambitam. The last one is adrutam. It is also not too fast. Okay, ரொம்பவே வேகமா சொல்ல, I had a meeting அப்படின்னாக்க ஒன்றும் புரியாது. ரொம்ப ஸ்லோவாகவும் சொல்லப்படாது. So he had a way of delivering. See, there are too many things here. Lord Rama has spoken here through Valmiki. Okay, avistaram, they are not too elaborate. Okay, that means you need to have the knowledge. Asandigdham is you know what it is, but when you are communicating, you are using the right words. Right words use பண்ணல அப்படின்னாக்கா, will it rain today? It may rain அப்படின்னா என்ன அர்த்தம்? நம்மளா புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். may rain வரும், வராத போலாம். That is ambiguous. You say it will rain with probability 0.3 அப்படின்னா சரி, அப்போ கொடையில பாதி பாகம் எடுத்துன்னு போனா போறோம் அப்படின்னு தெரிய வரும் இல்லையா? அசந்திக்தம், the word that you use is connected to the knowledge, right? Avistaram is knowledge. Asandigdham is how to connect knowledge with the word. Then avilambitam, adrutam. It should not be too slow nor too fast. Urastham kantagam vakyam vartate madhyamesware. The way he is speaking, his words are emanating from his chest and from his kantagam vakyam. And in what swaram it is in madhyama swaram அப்படிங்கிறார். ஸ்வரத்துல நீச்சஸ்வரம், மத்தியமஸ்வரம், உச்சஸ்வரம். சா பா சா போயிடுத்து மூணம். ஸோ சா பா சான்னு சொல்றேன் இல்லையா? பாங்கிறது மத்தியமஸ்வரம். ஸோ இட் இஸ் எமனேட்டிங் ஃப்ரம் தி செஸ்ட் அண்ட் தி கண்டம் பார்ட். ஸோ இஃப் யூ ஆர் டு லுக் அட் லலிதா சஹஸ்ரநாமம், ஓம் பரா பஷ்யந்தி மத்தியமா வைகரி ரூபாயை நமஹ. It talks about 4 forms of speech. What are they? Para. Para is something which emanates from the Paraswarupam, Atma Swarupam, the deepest form of utterance of anything. And perhaps Om Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasa Saha, as the Taittiriya Upanishad says, when somebody is in Paripurna Brahmanandam, that person cannot speak. So the para vak is embedded and the most deep-rooted way of speaking. And only 2 jnanis know when they speak in para vak. When one jnani is speaking in para vak, the other jnani will also acknowledge it. We will not hear anything. But those 2 people, they will be conversing in a different world. That is para. Then comes pashyanti, then madhyama and vaikari. So நம்ம எல்லாரோடையும் பேசணும் அப்படின்னாக்கா, obviously we have to use syllables, words that we can all understand. You can all hear, listen, etc. Therefore, they should be from Madhyama and Vaikari. You will see that Madhyama has a reference here, Madhyame Sware. So the Lord Hanuman actually not only knows about Vedas and Vyakaranam, okay, he has kept up his body in such a manner that he can use the sancharam of prana in his body to speak in such a manner that whatever is the true intent is conveyed and communicated, and it makes an impact also. It's not just a matter of converting jnana into vak, but urastham kantagam vakyam vartate madhyame sware. So he is not spoken to Rama and Lakshmana in a tone, that is Nichaswaram. Or Ninga Romba Perivanga in Idom, Odipida, Rama Lakshmana, you're on the valley agade, Avanam bind Odipida. So it has to be in a proper tone, Madhyame Sware. So these are all the wonderful, science of speaking. You will not get it in Stanford or Cambridge. No? The ways of communication. 101. Abdina idha. Idilla communication poch. Unfortunately, I thought I can cover more, but the attachment to Hanuman is growing. So I thought I'll spend some more time. I hope you will excuse me for that. Okay. So we have reached the end of the session today. We'll conclude our session now. Narayana. Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhakta Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhakta Samsara Chirat Bhava Mukta Guru Charanambuja Krishna Krishna Sendriya Manasa Niyamadevam Drakshasi Nija Hridayastham Devam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate Ye Kayena Vacha Manasa Indriyirva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Subhavate Karomi Yadyat Sakalam Parasme Shriman Narayana Yeti Samarpayami Shri Ramachandra. Have a great day and a week ahead. Thank you.
Namaskaram. Thank you.
Namaskaram.
Thank you.
Namaskaram.